అయిపోయిన తర్వాత పిలవాలా మీరు వస్తారా? Today I am going to take Pseudomonas class, and here this is very important topic. This Pseudomonas is one of the important dominant pathogen you can see in hospital acquired infections. Its importance is mainly due to it is established itself as one of the most troublesome agent causing nosocomial infection. Yes. Here, the Pseudomonas is reclassified as, besides this Pseudomonas, other genera are also there. They are Burkholderia and Stenotrophomonas. And some of them causes, even though it is a human pathogen, some of the pathogens also causes infections in humans. Some causes, some of them are also there. There are plants, insects, plant pathogens, insect pathogens, or reptile pathogens. These are a large group. These are large. Here it is an aerobic, non-sporing, and a motile with the polar flagellum. Okay, they are ubiquitous. Mostly these are saprophytic. In humans, sometimes it may also cause us opportunistic infection. Okay. Here, if you see the Pseudomonas aeruginosa, this is first described. This blue pus was first described by Gasser, who identified wound infection with the blue pus. This mainly due to Pseudomonas infection, and it is this aeruginosa literally means verdigris, which produces, it is nothing but a bluish green coloration. Indirectly, it is also called as pyocyanemia, and it causes mainly nosocomial infection and suppurative otitis, which is a chronic in nature, even though it doesn't cause any disabling. It also causes infantile diarrhea, sepsis, Shanghai fever. It's like typhoid fever. It's a gram-negative bacilli, and it measures about 1.5 to 3 into 0.5 micrometers in size. Actually motile by polar flagella. Clinical isolates are often palliated. Okay, palliated. It is non-capsulated. Even though it is non-capsulated, it forms a thin film surrounding this bacilli. Okay, which is mucoid in nature. This isolate is most commonly seen in cystic fibrosis. It is mainly composed of this extracellular polysaccharides composed of alginate polymers. It's a loose. This forms a loose capsule in which microcolonies of the bacilli are enmassed and produces the host and protected from the host defenses. Okay. Next, it is an obligate aerobe. That means it doesn't survive in the absence of oxygen. It may grow on ordinary media, which may produce opaque, irregular colonies with musty, mawkish, earthy smell, nutrient agar medium, it produces irregular colonies. I mean, it also produces irregular colonies which are iridescent, metallicity. You can see crystals underneath the medium. On Mekong agar, it is a non-lactose fermenting colonies. And lead agar, you can see hemolytic colonies. If you see the broth, it produces dense turbidity with pellicle. Pellicle means a layer above the a layer you can see on the surface of the liquid medium. Another important feature is it produces the pigments. They are named as pyocyanin, fluorescein, pyorubin, and pyomelanin. Pyocyanin is nothing but this the bacteria, the Pseudomonas, which produces the pyocyanin. This pyocyanin color is bluish green in color. Okay, which is water soluble and chloroform soluble. And whereas this fluorescein is soluble in water but not in chloroform. Okay, in world cultures it is sometimes in world cultures it may be yellowish brown pigment. Okay, other pigments like pyorubin. This rubin means red color, and pyomelanin means this the pus have brown or black color. It has this pigment has some importance. These pigments sometimes acts as a lysine to other bacteria. So it makes this Pseudomonas as a dominant pathogen in mixed infection. If you see the biochemical reactions, this is oxidase, catalase positive, and the metabolism is oxidative and non-fermentative. Oxidase, it doesn't ferment most of the sugars. It ferments only glucose, that to be in Hugh Gleason's medium. Okay. Next, it is citrate positive, indel negative, MRBP and H2S production is negative. In this case, nitrates are reduced to nitrites and further into gaseous nitrogen. And it also here one point is missed, that is it is positive for arginine dihydrolase test. And if you see the resistant pattern of this Pseudomonas, it is heat resistant. It is highly heat resistant, but can be killed at 55 degrees centigrade at 1 hour. Okay, in 1 hour it can be killed at 55 degrees centigrade. But it exhibits a high degree of resistance to antiseptics. And antiseptics, it is resistant to the common antiseptics and disinfectants like quaternary ammonium compounds, chloroxylenol, and hexachlorophenol. And these are also resistant to antiseptic solutions which are commonly used in hospital setting. Hospital setting. So these even these Pseudomonas can grow in this profusely grow in antiseptic solutions. Because of this cetramide or Dettol can be used as a selective medium, but it is sensitive to acids, beta-glutaraldehyde. Not only beta-glutaraldehyde and silver. So its susceptibility to silver has been applied clinically by using the silver sulfamide compounds in the form of topical application in burns cases. In burns cases, Pseudomonas is one of the most important pathogen you can see. You see the epidemiology, the importance of the bacilli, bacillus as a cause of causing agent was not adequately recognized till recently, but it is established itself as one of the most troublesome organism in the hospital setting. You see, here it is classified as community acquired or healthcare associated infections. In community acquired means outside the hospital setting, it may cause respiratory otitis media, respiratory tract infections, where you can see we will see cystic fibrosis, where you can see this infection and cystic fibrosis. If you see in healthcare associated, it may be localized or generalized. Okay. So in localized infection, you will see wound infections, eye infections, like wound infections, eye infections, bed sores, and following catheterization, you can see UTI, following lumbar puncture, you can see iatrogenic meningitis, and following tracheostomy, you can see pulmonary infection, whereas nail bed infection is you can see rarely. And generalized infection, that is septicemia and endocarditis. This septicemia and endocarditis is commonly seen in persons who are immunocompromised. Persons who are immunocompromised are persons with malignant condition. Okay, malignant conditions. That means the persons who are debilitated due to concomitant infection. And if you see the ecthyma gangrenosa, and this is the most important skin lesion you can see you can see in Pseudomonas infection, ecthyma gangrenosa, and other skin infections are also can be seen, but ecthyma gangrenosa is most important skin lesion you can see in generalized infection of the Pseudomonas. Okay. Next thing is its important role. The main important role of this the Pseudomonas in hospital setting is the most important pathogen, which is multi-drug resistant. Multi-drug resistant, and its ability to establish itself widely in hospital, and is one of the adaptable organism. Okay, even the presence of minimal requirement, it can survive. And it also contaminates the respirator, okay, respirator and endoscopes, articles such as bed fans, like that. And if you see the pathogenicity, the blue pus is the pus that is produced due to the infection of the Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Its pathogenicity is mainly due to the exotoxin, the toxins which are produced by this Pseudomonas aeruginosa are exotoxin. It contains two subunits, that is A and B, like that of diphtheria. So A subunit is active, whereas B subunit is helpful for binding. After binding, this active A inhibits the protein synthesis of the cells, thereby leading to the infection. And other enzymes are also involved. There are extracellular enzymes like protease, elastase, hemolysin, and enterotoxin. These are other important pathogenic enzymes that are involved. And another important factor is this organism is covered by a thin film, that is slime layer, which is mucoid in nature. Okay. After aggregating of these microcolonies, it is enmeshed and produce unmatched, thereby it is protected from the host defenses. Okay, next. If you see the for the diagnosis, if you see the laboratory diagnosis, the specimens that we can collect are pus from the wound or wound swab. In UTI cases, we can collect the midstream urine. And in meningitis, we can collect the CSF. In respiratory infection, we can collect the sputum. In septicemia endocarditis cases, we can collect the blood for the diagnosis of this Pseudomonas infection. Isolation is very easy in this case of Pseudomonas infection, because it grows very easily on ordinary media, and we can detect this organism very easily by seeing the pigmentation. On nutrient agar, you can see irregular colonies, irregular metallic sheet colonies. Basing on the pigmentation, maybe pyosine, pyocyanin, fluorescein, pyoverdin, pyorubin, or pyomelanin. And Mekong agar, these are already told, these are non-lactose fermenting it produces the non-lactose fermenting colonies. And blood agar, it produces the hemolytic colonies. This cetrimide agar is used as a selective media. Usually, this selective media is commonly used in diarrheal cases, where the cetrimide agar destroys the other organisms and enhances the growth of the Pseudomonas. For this purpose, we'll use this cetrimide agar as a selective media. For controlling this infection, strict asepsis is very necessary in case of hospital nosocomial infection. Hospital setting, in hospital setting. Prevention of this cross infection in hospital requires constant vigilance and strict attention to the strict attention to asepsis. But if you see the treatment, so many strains are multi-drug resistant, but some antibiotics can be used. There are cephalosporins, fluoroquinolones, penicillins, piperacillin, and ticarcillin. For local application, we'll use the topical colistin or polymyxin B. In case of burns, we'll use the silver sulfonamide ointment. Vaccine is also available, that is polyvalent cell surface 17 polyvalent vaccine, which contains 70 serotypes. Here this Pseudomonas classified basing on bacteriocin and basing on bacteriocin and also bacteriophages. Some serotypes are also classified, but these are all not that much reliable. The reliable one is pulse field gel electrophoresis. Typing with pulse field gel electrophoresis with it's a reliable method. And next topic, that is Burkholderia. Besides this Pseudomonas genera, other genera are also there. They are Burkholderia. Again, this Burkholderia contains species like Malay, Burkholderia malae, Pseudomalae, and Burkholderia cepaceae. But Burkholderia malae infection is mainly seen in horses, mules, or asses. Sometimes it may cause human infection, that is very rarely. It produces glandus disease. This glandus disease and this Burkholderia malae was first described by Loeffler and Schultz during the period of 1882. So, it's a natural disease. It produces the lymph nodes enlargement, hard nodes. You can see hard nodes, which mainly involves the respiratory system. It also involves the respiratory system, producing the septum nodules, nasal septum nodules, ulcers, you can see nasal discharge also. Okay. FARS is nothing but enlargement of the lymph vessels and nodes. They are like hard guards. Mainly it is a disease of the horses, mules. Okay, mules and asses. Sometimes you can see human infection, which is an occupational disease among hostlers, grooms, and veterinarians. Mode of infection is mainly through respiratory droplets, that is contact with discharges, contact with the respiratory discharges. You can see pyemia, multiple suppuration foci on different parts of the body. In acute glandus disease, you will see fever, mucopurulent nasal discharge, and severe prostration. Sometimes it may be fatal also. Usually, this infection is rarely from infected animals. You can see from the infected animals, but doing work with this malae in culture, it's very dangerous. We see the laboratory diagnosis. The first thing is samples that we have to collect. That is, wound discharge, wound swabs gani, lakapate blood samples gani, yes, sputum samples. These are some of the samples that we have to collect. Culture that we can see is irregular colonies. Commonly used media, nutrient agar, McConkey agar, blood agar, and Cetrimide agar also. On microscopy, these are gram-negative bacilli, measures about 2 to 5 micrometers to 0.5 micrometers, and it stains irregularly, staining is irregular, so it appears like beaded appearance. On further incubation, you can see yellow colored, from translucent, colorless to yellow color colonies can be seen. Next one is Burkholderia pseudomalae. This Burkholderia pseudomalae also causes pseudomalae causes melioidosis. It is similar. It's like a glandus disease. It's like glandus disease. It's also called Whitemore's bacillus or actinobacillus. Sometimes in exams it may be asked as Whitemore's bacillus. It is commonly seen epizootic in rodents. Okay, epizootic in rodents, and usually seen in Southeast Asia, India, and Australia. And it was first described by Whitemore and Krishnaswamy in Rangoon. Melioidosis is seen in animals Usually it is a saprophytic. Human infection can be acquired by contaminated soil, water, or through abrasions also, and ingestion of the contaminated particles. And another important feature of this Burkholderia malae is, even though the person is infected with Burkholderia malae, sometimes in some cases you can see asymptomatic infection, because it survives in the reticuloendothelial cells. Only when the person uh, doesn't, when the person reticular can survive intracellularly in a reticuloendothelial system. Whenever the person lowers its immunity, again you can see this infection in that asymptomatic patient. Not only in reticuloendothelial system, it also survives in the liver and spleen also. It is motile, it liquefies, whereas this so Burkholderia malae is a non-motile organism. Here, this is motile organism. The differences between Burkholderia malae and Pseudomalae is this Burkholderia malae is non-motile, whereas this Burkholderia Pseudomalae is a motile. It liquefies the gelatin, utilizes the sugars like sugars like sucrose, maltose, and galactose like that. It also has thermolabile exotoxins, which are lethal and necrotizing. If you see the clinical picture, in acute septicemia, it is presented as typhoid-like illness. Typhoid-like illness or subacute typhoid. In some cases, you can see pneumonia and hemoptysis, similar to that of resembles like tuberculosis. In chronic cases, you can see disseminated suppurative infection in multiple organs, which is it involves not only it involves the subcutaneous tissues, bones, internal organs. The samples that we have to collect are exudates, sputum, blood, urine. On microscopy, you can see, you can observe this gram-negative bacilli as irregularly stained, beaded apparent bacilli, resembles like safety pin. Isolation can be done on ordinary media like Mekong-Key agar, nutrient agar, and this blood agar. Serology that we commonly used for isolation of the Pseudomonas, Burkholderia pseudomalae is ELISA, indirect hemagglutination. PCR is also available in this case. The drug of choice for this Pseudomonas malae is ceftazidime, mainly the ceftazidime. Following alternate drugs are the cotrimoxazole, tetracycline, amoxicillin clavulanate, or clavulanate, or chloramphenicol. Prolonged treatment for months may be necessary in this case. Is there any doubts? So this completes the Pseudomonas. It's a very important topic. If you observe any some important points, I will discuss in this case. This case of this Pseudomonas. If you isolate this Pseudomonas from a single sample, should not be declared the patient have have the Pseudomonas infection. Only after repeated repeated isolation of this organism only we have to declare that the person have infected with Pseudomonas. This is one important point for in case of this Pseudomonas. Yeah, this completes the Pseudomonas, very important topic.